Pnawn da pawb, a chroeso I Bwyllgor Craffu Plant a Phobl Ifanc ar y 9th o Fedi. Welcome to the virtual meeting of the Children and Young People's Scrutiny Committee. Before we move on to the business this evening, members, I'd like to welcome our new Director of Children's Services, Annabelle Lloyd. Annabelle has been in post since the 1st of June. And it's Annabelle's first time presented to scrutiny this evening. I welcome also to the Cabinet Member for Children's Services, Councillor Leishon. Welcome to you also. And Gio is here. Hello there. And there are other heads of service from Children's Services. As I said, Annabelle was put in post on the 1st of June, so there are other officers present this evening should there be a question that precedes that. I'd also, and I can't see him present at the moment, and if he joins the meeting later on, I'll repeat what I've just said. I hope all members will agree with me when I'd like to thank Mr. Kevin Willett for his contribution and his participation as a member of the Scrutiny Committee. Mr. Willett, as we know, is a co-opted member, but he is leaving us sadly. Him and his family are to return to America in October. I hope he'll join the meeting so that we can thank him, but I hope, Claire, that we may have time to be able to send him a letter if he's not able to attend, just to pass on our thanks, because he's been a valued member of this Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Gio, if I could turn to you, please. Would you mind introducing this evening's officers for us, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We brought along 3 heads of service who support Annabelle in the role within Children's Services, and they cover areas of accommodation, safeguarding, and the assessor care management services, so the social work teams. And with us this evening, we've got Anne-Marie Browning, Julie Clark, and Tracy Prosser. And they will have specific detailed information regarding those areas if there are any questions that need to be picked up in those areas. Thank you, Chair. Can I just take every opportunity, can I just put on record my thanks to them all and for all the staff who work with them for the work they've done, particularly during these strangest of times, to ensure that we safeguard our children, young people and families as best we possibly can. Yes,
thank you. And I'm sure the committee would like to second that. It's been the most bizarre, difficult, surreal few months, hasn't it? With more to follow, I believe. So we'd like to put on record our thanks also for all the staff, please. Can I ask members, please, if there are any declarations of interest this evening? Okay, I don't see a show of hands there. I'll move on then, please. Oh.
Sorry, Chair. I didn't use the symbol. Do we need to mention Governor's situation in various schools, or we take that for everyone?
No. And Paul, I can see you shaking your head. No.
No, it's that's accepted responsibility. So there's dispensation for that.
Thank you very much, Paul. Sorry, can I also remind members to use the raised hand function also, please? Thank you. I'll move on then, please, members, to the minutes of the meeting of the 22nd of July. Please use the raised hand if you've got any comments. The minutes also are available as part of the virtual meeting that's available online. But the minutes take us from page 5 through to page 6. This was the meeting, of course, where the Director of Education gave us an update of the response to the COVID pandemic. Page 7, page 8, and then the minutes finish there on page 9. I can't see any members indicating. Okay, could I have a mover then, please, and a seconder to agree that the minutes are a true reflection of that meeting?
I move them, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. On a seconder, please. I can see Councillor Vaughan had raised her hand. Thank you, Councillor Vaughan. I'll move on now then, please. I'll hand us over to Paul Nichols, who will take us through the covering report of tonight's agenda item. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Members, the purpose of this evening's report is to continue the discussions the committee had in July of this year regarding education matters. But tonight will be from the perspective of Children's Services, and members are asked to consider this report before them in the context of that first meeting. Members will recall that the Overview and meeting met back on the 26th of June of this year and determined the areas of for scrutiny up to the AGM on the 16th of September. And in July, members had an opportunity to scrutinise and review the Council's response to COVID-19 pandemic from an education and schools perspective. And this report before the members and the verbal update from the Director of Children's Services will give members this evening the opportunity to scrutinise and review the Council's response from a Children's Services viewpoint. So members are asked to consider the attached reports and determine whether there are any issues on which they would like to receive further information. However, it's not proposed at this meeting to facilitate detailed discussions around specific areas. So finally, Chair, it's important to acknowledge in the current circumstances that facilitating the opportunity for senior officers to provide up-to-date information, like this evening, directly at the committee meeting provides the most effective way of, for scrutiny to be engaged. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Members, the way I'm looking to conduct the meeting is, as previously, to conduct the meeting in two parts. Part one will be a retrospective look to the response to the stay-at-home rules. I'll also invite Councillor Aisham to come in there if she has anything to add. And then I'll open up for members' questions. And then once we've done that, we'll move on to part two, which is the recovery plan. And again, after senior officers have spoken, I'll see if Councillor Aisham would like to come in, and then I'll open up to members for questions again. And once again, can I just remind people to use the raised hand facility, please, just to be able to get my attention, because there are quite a few of us on this meeting now. Just before I hand over to Annabelle, I can see that Mr. Willett has joined us. Welcome, Mr. Willett. Just before you joined us, I thanked you actually for your participation and your contribution to the Children and Young People Scrutiny Committee. We've heard that you and your family are making the move back to America very soon. And on behalf of all of us, we would just like to thank you for your sterling work. You contribute to every single meeting. We notice, when you're absent, which is a testament to that. And we'd all like to wish you and your family well on your travels. Thank you. Okay, Annabelle, I'll hand over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the welcome to my first scrutiny meeting. I would like to add that I've had the warmest of welcomes, although coming into a post in, as you say, is the strangest of times. So many thanks to colleagues, foster carers, who've really been very supportive. As you say, the verbal presentation is providing an overview in two parts. The first part will address our response to the pandemic. And I've tried to achieve a little bit of a balance between not talking too much and giving you sufficient information that helps you with your scrutiny role. Just to say really that I've tried to break it down, hopefully it's sensible, under the headings of transforming the service, safeguarding children and operational arrangements, PPE testing, working with partner agencies and courts, and managing performance. And I'm just going to share some observations around some of the challenges and unexpected benefits. So in terms of transforming the service, just as a quick recap, sometimes it doesn't feel that far away, but actually things have changed quite a bit since the Prime Minister and the First Minister announced these stay-at-home rules. And what commenced then was a rapid and active review of the implications of that had already commenced. In that bit of a recap, I think it's worth acknowledging that although there was recognition of the difficulties faced by Children's Services, our statutory duties were unchanged by those the stay-at-home rules. There was, it's fair to be said, realistic and considerable concern about the day-to-day lived experience of our most vulnerable children and young people being at home in those situations of vulnerability. Children at risk where domestic abuse was a concern, it was a real worry for people. or children who are looked after and not in their in their placements for longer periods where they were perhaps distressed or presented with behavioural challenges, and their school was seen as make or break, and they were older young people. The service had no prior precedent or guidance with which to guide the adjustments, and there was anticipated increased demand, reduced workforce, and anticipated placement disruption with a predicted scarcity of placements available as well, really. So I just felt I needed to do justice really to some of the scale of the challenge that the service faced. And also closing services was not an option. The service had to continue and adjust and turn things around from an office-based face-to-face service, doing the large part of our work face-to-face with families in their homes, or meeting bases, and us supporting staff to do their very demanding and challenging roles face-to-face, to doing things, working from home, by telephone, by text, by video. I think there was a lot of learning overnight about working in new ways using video and telephone, and of course in some circumstances following risk assessment and using PPE appropriately, some face-to-face work did continue. The service had to plan for reduced availability of staff due to caring responsibilities, and also some points illness as well. Although the service turned into an agile working from home service in a matter of days, a small core of staff were maintained in a management hub at T. Catrin, obviously with risk assessment, safe distancing being involved. Daily meetings were set up by Children's Services management team to monitor challenges and the changes to the service, including availability of staff as that changed, and communication about service provision adjustments, including the arrangements for childcare hubs. Some work had to be stepped down. And that included some of the service development and non-essential meetings, including some of the partnership work, panels and professional meetings, and face-to-face meetings where naturally risk had to be avoided by doing things differently. It's very important that we communicated well with staff, and written information informed online team meetings using Teams. That was provided in March, April and August. The update in April took account of the Welsh Government guidance that had arrived by then, the operational guidance, and in August there was a further update in line with the easements, and there have, albeit a very prescient meeting today, there have been subsequent easements as well that we've taken account of. In terms of safeguarding and operational arrangements, what's very clear is that the guiding principle was safeguarding as the Council's first duty. There was an unaltered service linked to the multi-agency safeguarding hub, making sure that staff were responding to new concerns, new child protection concerns, and that we were progressing plans for children at risk whose names were added to the Child Protection Register, or for whom there was an application for care before the courts. I'd like to convey to Scrutiny Committee a very strong message about the work of staff. My observation is that they really were selfless, put families first, and very committed, and they were flexible and very hardworking. I've been very impressed with that since coming into role. In terms then of managing the cases and our response to young people, particularly young people at risk, there was a systematic approach carried out where cases were prioritised according to priority of risk and needs under a red, amber and green categorisation. And that took place across all services: Children's Services, Resilient Family Service, Youth Engagement Participation Service, Fostering Service and the Youth Offending Service. So there was a method that was continuously reviewed as new information came to light, that made sure that we had a system for seeing and hearing the children who are most vulnerable. Acknowledging that risk assessment for face-to-face was necessary. The Youth Offending Service continued to cover the law courts and provide an appropriate adult service at the police headquarters and maintain their high-risk panel. The play and early communication services continued virtually and by phone. Youth work continued via Zoom, text and WhatsApp, and live Q&A and chat sessions were made available, along with 20 virtual youth clubs online and online challenges and competitions. The Wicked website was overhauled to include a range of support, from technical support to mental health, and also guidance about future opportunities for those leaving school this summer. As Scrutiny Committee will be aware, the school hubs were set up for vulnerable children, and at those regular daily meetings there was good communication around who most needed to go and have that type of support, and also if they weren't present, so that Children's Services could respond to the changing circumstances. I want to just say a little bit about supporting looked after young people. But before I do that, I really must praise foster families. When you think about the circumstances they were faced with and not having that school provision available to them in the same way, acknowledging that some of those young people did access the hubs, which was great value. It was a big ask of foster carers, and I must say that we didn't experience the level of placement disruption we had perhaps anticipated given the circumstances. If we had disruption, it tended to be smaller numbers and more of the older young people whose needs were really very complex indeed. Also, I have to highlight the commitment of residential staff, and there are examples right at the early days where some of the staff moved into the homes, and in one example in line with regulation where a young person moved with a staff member because for their unique set of circumstances that's what seemed to be the right solution for them. We did continue some contact, particularly with those young people, so we had to protect foster homes, but for those who are most vulnerable and or distressed or at risk of placement breakdown, they did continue to receive face-to-face service where it was appropriate and safe. And bearing in mind some of that learning about operational arrangements, some of that work was done in very creative and unique ways that we would never have anticipated being necessary or appropriate. I hope it's helpful for Scrutiny Committee to hear a little bit about the use of PPE. Reassuring for me to hear that access to supply was not an issue in the case of Children's Services staff. What we did face was differing advice about use of PPE, particularly in terms of children's homes. And a distinction was made. We did do some work with Councillation and the Corporate Parenting Board in terms of the importance of being clear following risk assessment that for children in a children's home, caring for a child with full PPE was not always appropriate or in line with their needs. Young people were consulted about that as well, and there was a dynamic risk assessment process so that staff felt confident and supported that should circumstances change, the equipment was available to them and they would be supported in making sure that they were safe as well, bearing in mind their own family and circumstances. Scrutiny Committee will be aware that our work with partners is really very, very important, and there were some changes, and the first one that was noted was initially a drop in the rate of referral, particularly from the sources in health around health visiting and midwifery and schools. That subsequently changed, and I can tell you now that the rate of referral is back to just slightly higher than where we were last year, and that increased rate of referral has now stabilised over a few months. Children's Services staff continued to work in the courts and made new applications where that was appropriate to safeguard children, and indeed concluded some cases with praise from the court recognising their commitment and flexibility. We worked very closely with education partners around the hubs. and addressing and resolving the issues that were raised from that, and Care Inspectorate Wales in terms of the childcare settings and the changing circumstances around the children's homes as well. The Regional Safeguarding Board established a partnership process for raising partnership issues and a silver and bronze reporting issue as well. In terms of managing the performance and the business around that, Children's Services established weekly performance management meetings. And that was informed by a revised data set that was established to allow professionals to track the data fields that we feared would be most affected. For example, the rate of referral, which I've referred to earlier on, the number of child protection cases, placement moves, so moves of young people in unplanned ways within the looked after system, the rate at which children become looked after, which has been closely monitored in line with the Welsh Government's ambition of safely reducing looked after numbers. So in terms of children looked after, I think what I want to inform Scrutiny Committee is that there was also a Welsh Government weekly reporting process that was trying to look at whether there were any examples of new entries to care linked to COVID-19. In terms of our overall looked after count, in the 12-month retrospective look, we're slightly higher, so we would have been 685 at this point last year, and we're 710 now. I can confirm that the council reported no entries to care due to COVID. The rate of becoming looked after is slightly lower than in 2019. Although we have been able to move on some cases to safe exit from the looked after system, there is work remaining on exits from the looked after system and discharging care orders. So a piece of catch-up work that will take a little bit of time there. In terms of child protection register numbers, they did increase initially. Part of the adjustments that we had to make was to stand down some of the review child protection conference and the points when children's names could be removed from the register. There has since been a subsequent catch-up process, and when we look at an annual look back at the number of 466 on the child protection register, that's 40 more than the same time last year in 2019. I mentioned that placement breakdowns have been slightly reduced in the annual look back comparison, with a small number of very significant instability issues in the summer months, which from my recollection seem to be Friday afternoons. So just kind of pulling that together a little bit, there are absolutely no benefits to a pandemic, and I wouldn't want that anybody to think any different. But when I look back on the changes, I don't think the term transformation is overstating it, actually. The use of ICT has really increased, and nothing will ever replace the importance of face-to-face work for social work with children and families, but I have been impressed with what has been achieved, and we certainly will be adopting some of the benefits of the ICT work with families. I really am so impressed with young people and their families and the foster carers and workforce. They've really coped in very many examples extremely well. And although it was greatly not expected and we need to understand it more, some of the looked after young people have experienced improved relationships, particularly with their foster carers or in children's homes, and perhaps controversially, have benefited from a period without conventional school attendance, from building on the relationships. It's not always been the case, it has to be said. Some of the challenges and learning going forward from that period is that it stands to reason, I hope, that not seeing children and families face to face and the restrictions will have has its impact. And there still is uncertainty about the nature of that. We're still assessing it, but the various features of the impact of the pandemic leads us with sadness to predict increased demand. The other thing that we've got to say is that there has been a challenge in doing the face-to-face preventative work, and we're very keen to pick that up as soon as possible for the same reasons. Some of the service developments have had to be slowed down or put on hold while we turn the service around. Looking back, we think perhaps swifter establishment of the bronze and silver arrangements would have been helpful. We know that some of the families with children with disability who receive services due to having a child with a disability in the family really found it very difficult that we weren't able to provide the respite services, partly due to the restrictions, but partly also due to some instability in the residential estate that we have as well. So that's a little bit of an overview from me. I hope it's been helpful. And I hope I can answer your questions also.
Thank you, Annabelle. Councillor Lation, is there anything you wanted to add to Annabelle's presentation at all? You're on mute, sorry, Councillor Lation.
No, thank you, Chair. I think Annabelle's covered it off very well. But I would like at this point to give my personal thanks to Annabelle for keeping me informed and discussing with me sometimes on a daily basis this ever-changing world. And Annabelle is right when she said it did seem to be every Friday for a month that we'd have some challenge in the afternoon that we would have to face. And our staff were fantastic, staying in our homes, sometimes overnight with young people because there was no alternatives. So I would like to thank Annabelle personally for that, and also our YEP staff and our leisure staff who came into our holiday hubs with very little experience of EpiPens. They had to go through training. Not only did they do it, but they thoroughly enjoyed it. And we have leisure staff now who have volunteered with YEP staff in future arrangements. So I'm grateful to all our staff for what they've done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lation. Okay, I'm going to open up to members now. Then I'm just aware that a couple of members joined during Annabelle's presentation. So just to recap quickly, the meeting is being held in two parts. Annabelle Lloyd, the new Director of Children's Services, has just presented the retrospective look, the response, I suppose, to the stay-at-home rules, which is what we'll have questions on now. And then when we've had a good look at that, Annabelle will move on to part two, which is the recovery plan. And given that Annabelle has only been in post since the 1st of June, other officers are also present to answer any questions. Okay, Councillor Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask, is anybody else having technical issues? Because during the presentation, I went completely offline and then for some reason to reconnect on two separate occasions. So I don't know whether there's any problems at your end or is it just mine?
I'm not sure. Anyone from Democratic Services? I know Councillor Brenshaw had trouble prior to the meeting.
No, we seem to be okay. Thanks, Chair.
It's probably my end. Thank you, Chair. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Mr. Willett, please.
Diolch yn fawr, Chair. Thank you all very much. I appreciate the kind words about our participation in the Scrutiny Committee. Unfortunately, we are one of the families that's been affected by the coronavirus, and we're going to have to move back to the United States. But we have enjoyed our time here. Mr. Fish and I have had some very good conversations of late, just about some of the experiences that we've shared here. And it's been my pleasure to be a part of this committee, and particularly so because I understand that the Youth and Children's Scrutiny Committee was one of the only ones during the lockdown that was actually meeting, having virtual meetings to look at important issues, which kind of confirms to me that children and young people are a priority in RCT, and I think that's very important, and we appreciate that and want to celebrate that. My question is in regards to some data. We love data in this committee, and I wondered if perhaps I may not be able to benefit from this, but other members might, of what sort of data is going to be coming out that's sort of comparing and contrasting the way things like the YEPs doing their virtual meetings in the holiday period versus how they normally have their meetings. What sort of uptake was there? Were there the same number of young people involved in that? And then some of the other questions about what was the uptake in the other summer period services that were offered? Were many young people, children? I just wondered if we might could get some compare and contrast data on what that looks like, because obviously that kind of speaks to the resilience of youth and children's services if they're able to maintain a level during a global pandemic. And then also I think along with that would be what sort of cost analysis could go along with the data. Obviously value for money is a big thing for the council and for this committee. So it'd be nice to be able to see some data as far as expenses and costs and how all those things compare from before the lockdown and the pandemic to during. So having some data I think would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Willett. I agree. Annabelle, would you like to come back in on that at all?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Willett. I can confirm that over 300 places were made available in the emergency childcare, and it really was a feat that was pulled off. I haven't got any contrast data, and I'm not sure that any is available in Wales. Zoe Lancelot, Head of Community Wellbeing Service, couldn't make it this evening, but has volunteered to provide written responses to questions that I haven't got the data for. So, Chair, would it be acceptable for me to ask Zoe to provide information that would be available around data and costs on the childcare?
Yes, that would be fine. Thank you, Annabelle. Thank you. Councillor Brenshaw, please.
Thank you. My thanks also to Annabelle. That was reassuring, Annabelle. And I would say to Councillor Lysham, because I know they've been particularly busy over the period. And I found it reassuring that somebody was keeping a close eye on those vulnerable children. So I have questions related to your report, Annabelle, if I may. I was intrigued by the children who were benefiting by not attending school, and I can understand where you're coming from with that. And I wonder whether we can learn a lesson, or the schools perhaps we need to revisit that. You know, do we need a longer period where people can embed themselves within families before they get into a new school setting? It was just a question. Can we learn from that as a positive and put something in place there? I'm also concerned about the disabled children within families. It puts an awful lot of pressure on families. And we know the respite services were dramatically reduced. I just wondered if there's anything we can do there when we've got time to reflect on how we can support those families better. An extraordinary amount of pressure on families. And I was also a little bit concerned about youth engagement. I think we've done a really good job engaging with the virtual youth club and so on. And you know, congratulations to staff for coming up with all of those initiatives. But getting back to those interactions away from computer games, away from the physical computer, you know, we've got evidence of children going to school now where their fingers are tapping where they played computer games in, you know, throughout the period. So there are some real issues here, drawing people away from computers into the real world. So three sort of issues there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Great questions. I think the first thing I must do is provide a clarification, really, that I'm really clear that looked after children need to go to school and they need to have an education. And I don't think we've got sufficient evidence to be offering up different proposals to that at this stage. We need to understand it more. I think it's more, if anything, about relationships, and that we know that for some of our vulnerable looked after young people, whilst schools work incredibly hard to support some of those young people, school can, or transitions particularly, can be stressful situations for young people. So I think we need to pause and plan, but it is interesting to hear that feedback on several occasions, but I think we need to frame that in the context of attachment and relationships. I think, so the other question they asked me was about youth engagement. I share your concern, absolutely. There is a 4-phase plan of returning to, it's very difficult to anticipate normal business at the moment, particularly given the very recent moves, but there is a plan to return to youth service and youth engagement, including some street engagement work as well. I hope you'll understand that this next phase, we need to absolutely put public safety and staff safety first. So we may need to look at how we enhance online offer, in-school offer safely, and we will have to adjust that in terms of what we're hearing around national or any local restrictions. Oh, the other thing that you asked me about was children with disability services. Absolutely. Really most incredibly resourceful families, actually, and have done really great work. There has been a range of, apart from the respite service at Nant Gwyn, there have been a range of other provisions that have been made available, albeit they are different, and some families would need greater support than others. What I'd like to do is to invite Tracy Prosser, who's Head of Service for that. Tracy, is there anything you'd like to add on in terms of the offer to families with a child with disability?
Yes, thank you. Initially, those families didn't want visits and support because of the nature of some of the children's disabilities and illness. And I think what we found towards the end of lockdown is the families wanted their respite back, but obviously we had to manage that safely and prioritise. And unfortunately, because of the small provision, we couldn't provide it to families. So we used our support services to go in. So they offered safe distant visits to the family. They took some children out, and also Anne-Marie's residential staff from Nant Gwyn, they offered community support as well. So we tried to manage it by offering alternatives for these families rather than their traditional overnight stays. And that's something now, the challenge going forward is how we get more children into those provisions. And I don't know if it helps as well. We talked about our children looked after in their education, and I think, Councillor, you're right that they've used to being on games and not perhaps being able to do the studies that they did. And we're working with ed psychologists at the moment because they've secured some funding. And so what we're hoping is our year 10 and our year 11 class looked after children, we can get some tuition in maths and English for them. So, and we're not going to do it within the school so that they appear different. We're going to do it at home and provide devices if they haven't got devices. So we're hoping they can have that one-to-one if they want and catch up maybe with some of the loss and achieve the grades that they hoped they would get prior to lockdown.
Thank you. Mr. Fish, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Annabelle, for your presentation. Just two questions. You mentioned that right at the beginning, in terms of reviewing service delivery, that some of the partnership work had to naturally slip for operational reasons. I wonder whether one of those areas of particular pressure was the NHS. One of the particular areas of interest for this committee is your relationship with the CAM service. And I'm interested to see how that was affected during the duration. And then the second question arises from the last point you mentioned, about some of your preventative work had to be necessarily disengaged. I'm presuming that we're talking about our early intervention work through Resilient Families and, again, Zoe Lancelot. And I'm wondering what the potential impact of the loss of that area of work may foreseen to be. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Fish. In terms of our work with CAMS, CAMS did continue to provide services and including online and video services. In terms of our work with them, I'm going to invite Tracy to comment on that bit as well, please. But before I do, I'll try and respond to the question about Resilient Family Service. I talked earlier on about the red, amber and green categorisation. So families in the amber and green did continue to receive services, some of them weekly, some by telephone and where necessary, where it was safe face-to-face. But the green cases were stepped down. We're in the process now of stepping that work back up. And we will obviously need to check out where families are post COVID in doing that work. In terms of what we consider to be the impact, we need to be thinking mid and long term in that. It is way too early to be saying with any degree of certainty what the impact is, because we don't know to what extent yet families with some the right support at the right time, the right intervention helps them to recover their resilience and move forward, or to what extent those families will need to come into statutory services. So that's the bit that I was referring to earlier on, that was sadly we're going to need to be predicting increased demand. We know particularly around domestic abuse there's been increased reporting, but the uncertainty bit is the impact of that over time for families. Tracy, would you be kind enough please to come in on the CAMS question?
Thank you. I'm sure Scrutiny Committee will be well aware it's always a challenge working with CAMS. Prior to lockdown, we started doing a Cymtaf Morgannwg approach and working closely with CAMS. But sadly that had to end because we weren't doing those meetings. And I would say through this pandemic, the key very much crisis cases, we've had support from CAMS. But I think going forward, I think we're mindful that our young people, there's going to be a backlash. You know, they've experienced a lockdown, they haven't been able to socialise. And I think that is going to be an area of great development for us, because we're going to need all our young people who need it to be seen, and how do they prioritise. So I think Annabel will be very aware, having worked in a local authority nearby, that that's going to remain a challenge for us.
Thank you. That's a good question about CAMS, Mr. Fish. I know I had a family contact me at the beginning of lockdown, actually, where their child was in the process of being referred to CAMS, and it took, and you know, with the crisis team, and it took about 10 weeks. It was unacceptable, really, that, you know, because this particular family were in dire straits actually and needed support, and we just couldn't get any. So I think that is something that we really need to be looking at. Councillor Fechan, sgwelwch yn dda.
Diolch yn fawr iawn yn Gymraeg, os gwelwch dda. Diolch yn fawr iawn am hynny. Dwi'n rhannu'r pryderon o ran CAMS, oherwydd yn amlwg mae yna trauma rithrol di bod i'n plant yn pobl ifanc ni. Un o'r pethau dyn ni wastad yn monitro o ran y pwyllgor yma ydy o ran plant yn cael school exclusions, bod nhw ddim, oherwydd bod nhw'n cambyhafio ag ati. Yn amlwg, mae'n mynd i fod yn anodd iawn i nifer o'n pobl ifanc ni addasu nôl i'r ysgolion. A dwi'n meddwl, enwedig efo plant sydd fwy o bregus neu angen cefnogaeth, a plant sy'n cael ei edrych ar ei ôl a bobl ifanc, bod ni wir angen meddwl ynglyn â'r gofal arbennig iddyn nhw, a jyst eisiau gwybod, fatha dyn ni'n gweld bod yna broblem fo CAMS, be ydy'r camau eraill sydd na i roed cefnogaeth gan gydnabod rhai o'r anawsterau. Hefyd eisiau pigo fyny ar y pwynt o ran bod ni falle mynd i fod yn cynnig mwy o gefnogaeth efo mathemateg a Saesneg i'r rhai sydd yn blwyddyn yn y blynyddoedd pwysig hynny o ran arholiadau. Ydy hynna hefyd yn ymestyn i'r Gymraeg, ac hefyd i rheiniau sydd ddim just mewn ysgolion Cymraeg, ond efo Cymraeg yn ail iaith. Yn amlwg, mae wedi bod yn anodd iawn iddyn nhw gael yr gefnogaeth o ran bod yn parhau efo'i sgiliau yn y Gymraeg. Oes na beth penodol, ddim jyst yn ysgolion iaith Gymraeg ni, ond i bod yn rhoi y gefnogaeth hynny i disgyblion sydd yn ysgolion Saesneg ni o ran y Gymraeg hefyd, herwydd mae hwnnw yn sgil eithriadol o bwysig efo nifer o swyddi rwan yng Nghymru ac yn rhywbeth fyswn ni'n hoffi gweld bod pawb yn cael yr un y cyfle, a dwi'n meddwl bod plant sy'n cael ei gofalu amdanyn nhw, hynod falle angen mwy o gefnogaeth o ran hyn, na falle rhai sydd efo teuluoedd sydd yn gallu helpu ag ati. Wedyn, jyst eisiau cael cadarnhad o ran hynny neu gwybod beth yw'r cynlluniau, os gwelwch yn dda.
Diolch.
Thank you, Councillor. The Scrutiny Committee will be aware that each looked after young person has personal education plans, and looked after education services, Kerry Webster, has continued to keep in touch with carers and looked after young people during the period, supporting carers with continuing learning as well. I acknowledge the point and agree that emphasis on Welsh learning is equally important, and that's important for Welsh speaking looked after young people and for those looked after young people who are learning through Welsh as a second language. Tracy, you've outlined some of the additional support that is coming online at the moment through this extra funding, which naturally will boost those areas. Is there something you might be able to add on to that, please?
It's in its very early stages. In fact, this week they were notified they've had a grant. So that's something I'm more than happy to take forward and talk to Kerry Webster and her team about as well, and make sure that we cover all those areas.
Thank you, Tracy. I think that's very important. Thank you very much. Julie Clark, Head of Service, was indicating to come in. Hi, Julie.
Oh, thank you for that. I just wanted to sort of give a little bit of encouragement to members in terms of CAMS's involvement during the lockdown. I certainly wouldn't disagree with the concerns that are raised, but on a positive note, when the silver and bronze arrangements were set up, from a multi-agency perspective, what we were able to do was actually get CAMS around the table. So on a weekly basis initially during the lockdown, and since then on a bi-weekly basis, we've pulled together a number of relevant agencies to absolutely make sure that we're on top of the safeguarding priorities, that we share our performance data, and that we try and address any safeguarding risks and address barriers. CAMS have attended those meetings pretty regularly. They've provided data as well. And as someone who has worked for the council since 2011, I would say that's probably the first time that I'm able to recall CAMS actually making a commitment to attend a multi-agency meeting. CAMS have also been more of a presence during some of the meetings that we're holding about children, which is interesting, and I don't know whether that is because meetings are being held virtually and that is freeing them up to attend things. So I would say that there's still a significant amount of improvement required in terms of our commitment from CAMS, particularly for our very vulnerable children and young people. But I have seen a recognition during lockdown that they need to be more visible and more responsive. And what I would hope as we move into the next stage of our recovery is that CAMHS will continue to play a part in the multi-agency meetings that we're holding for children, which is certainly an improvement on our experiences before. So it's a little bit of a positive for members rather than everything being too negative. But I would certainly say there's still a lot more needs to be done.
Thank you, Julie. Councillor Griffiths, please.
Thank you. I want to thank the staff for the report and their responses, but I have actually found this meeting quite difficult, and it's partly to do with Zoom, but it's partly to do with it being a verbal report. I mean, and I think we need to focus on what scrutiny is supposed to be doing, which is to actually assess the outcomes of the service that's provided to the children. And I appreciate that this is a difficult time for everybody and that staff have been working extremely hard, and it may be quite difficult to assess those outcomes. But I think we need to be able to focus on some specific areas where we do get some information about sort of the inputs into a service, the outputs from a service, the outcomes from that service, and then to look at the creative ways that the service can develop in order to provide what our children need. This is going to be going on for some time. And so I think we need to do more than describe what's going on. We as a scrutiny need to be able to look at how effective the service is. So I'm sorry to bring a sort of slightly negative response to this, but I think that that's what our job as scrutiny is. And I would like us to be able to focus on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. I mean, to be fair to Annabelle, this is the same kind of meeting that we had with the education in July, where we were, because we hadn't, I mean, the children's services aspect of the scrutiny committee hasn't met since the beginning of March, has it? And as we know, a lot has happened there. And so the purpose of this meeting was to have that retrospective look and that recovery plan look. And in the recommendation there, it does give us the opportunity to determine what other areas we'd like more information on. So I appreciate your frustration because we haven't met for such a long time to discuss children's services. But I think that's maybe something that we can be more specific about when we come to the recommendations, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. I don't have any other members indicating. I think I'm right in saying that. Okay, in which case, Annabelle, can we move on to part 2? I'm sorry, did somebody say something? Paul?
Yes, can I just come in there? I'm sorry, I'm struggling and looking to find my little red hand there, so I couldn't. If I can just say, I take what Councillor Griffiths has said. It's a lot of catching up that members are trying to get to grips with. And as you said, in the recommendation, there is a request or members are asked whether they want to receive additional information. It might be premature to perhaps expect something coming back from members because members are just getting information now on what's happened over the last 3-4 months. But going forward, I think Annabelle has outlined what the service have done and what they intend to do. And it may be that in future meetings, members can then measure what's been said at this meeting and future meetings, and then sort of come back and assess whether what has been proposed has actually been achieved, and in fact, whether it was successful. So I think that it's difficult to scrutinise to the extent that perhaps Councillor Griffiths would like to and should be, given where we are in terms of information at the moment. So hopefully we will get back on our feet very quickly and we will have some meaningful reports that members can get their teeth into as they have done in past years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Okay, Annabelle, are you happy to move on to the second part of the meeting, which is the recovery plan, please?
Thank you, Chair. I just quickly have got to say that a focus on outcomes is very welcome, and the role of scrutiny in challenging our effectiveness and that road to improvement is also very welcome. So we look forward to bringing forward those reports. I think in terms of recovery, Chair, the concept of recovery is still slightly challenging for children's services for the reasons that we've outlined around the uncertainty about impact for families. Having said that, what I'm very clear about is that we have to be a service that moves beyond that concept of recovery into a thriving service, and a service that's able to respond and effectively meet need as well. But in terms of planning our recovery, we felt it was very important to, notwithstanding our duty to the public first, to check in with staff around their experience of being agile workers, of working remotely with families, and a staff survey has complemented the corporate survey, which has highlighted that whilst some of our staff group did find working from home slightly challenging, on balance, staff are doing well. It was there were 75% response rate, so a well responded to survey. We have learned that having some safe office space available to staff, particularly for example, for hybrid court hearings, for face-to-face supervision with appropriate distancing, has been important, and we've been able to provide that as well. But when we move forward, we will be needing to think of a more agile service, and that's part of the learning and improvement that we can adopt going forward. The next area of our plans for recovery are around developing a safe and sustainable service delivery model. So our delivery at present is in line with the operational guidance for Welsh Government, and we are continuing to build on those skills that have been developed, and we're entering more of a hybrid phase. So, for example, where it is safe and appropriate, parents or family might come to a meeting and other professionals might come in on Teams or Zoom, so that we can increase family engagement in those very important meetings. We've also been working with the Welsh Government step-by-step risk assessment, and Contact for Children is more face-to-face, and that's been an important progress for us. We have experienced some challenging around staff capacity, one part of the service, and this features in our recovery plans, and it's the intensive intervention part of the service. And I have to be straightforward with Scrutiny Committee that despite very hard work around retention and recruitment, this continues to be an issue, and there are some examples of excessive hours worked and high caseloads. We're working with those individuals to support them, and there is further work underway in terms of recruitment and retention. It is not just a local but also a national, fairly long-standing issue around that area of social work that links to child protection and court work. We talked a little bit earlier on, both in terms of the presentation and in terms of responses around the emergency childcare for the summer, the 7 hubs that were established, and in addition to the 360 spaces available, we know that on average 200 attended every day. I provided my responses a little bit more information about the phased response and reintroduction of the youth engagement and participation service, including street-based work. The progress of the recovery plan has seen us stepping up some of the work with partnership and returning to progress with the Regional Safeguarding Bird Business Plan and case reviews. Silver has, the Silver partnership arrangements have stepped down in light of that, and the bronze arrangements have been integrated into other business. Training has been delivered online, and some of it will continue to be delivered online, and we have continued to operate remotely with some of those partnership meetings. Youth Offending Service has been able to increase its work with young people, and that's included the high risk panel, but are highlighting the importance of the preventative work and the outreach work as well, particularly in hotspots in the community. The Youth Offending Service has not experienced the same level of backlog with courts that other areas are experiencing. So that's a little bit of us where we are at the moment. Of course, we may need to respond to new arrangements based upon announcements, but in terms of next steps, we would safely like to increase our face-to-face work and continue and pick up that work on safely reducing looked after numbers, look at the service provision that we've got available to support that work, making sure that we're lined up for this next phase in the journey. And we will need to have a look at what further we do adopt some of the adjustments from our work and what we need to step down eventually in favour of returning to a more face-to-face model.
Thank you, Annabel. Councillor Vychan, please.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. I'm speaking in English this time. I think it's quite strange for us to be talking about recovery plan. Obviously, you touched upon it when we're still with the potential of a local lockdown at the moment. And I think what obviously was very different in terms of services and the provision in the summer as well. If we are moving to another lockdown, I think what I'd like to know, and maybe it's quite strange to bring it up here, but I think it is about that plan going forward rather than looking back, is what's our plan over winter now? Because obviously children could play outside. We were very fortunate with the weather at the start, you know, that actually face-to-face contact outside was much easier. We're going into winter period, so what are the plans there to be supporting in very different circumstances, given hopefully we won't have to implement that plan, but in case we do, what plans are being put in place to prepare for that and support people? Because obviously if people aren't getting outside, even for their daily walk, etc., I think our most vulnerable are the ones that are very much at risk of being missed here. And obviously domestic violence that you've referenced earlier, during winter when the hours are dark, I just worry what's our plan, because this isn't about recovery, it's dealing with a very real and could be emergency situation. And also we've seen very tragic cases of carers and so on not being able to cope with situations where they have children or young people with very specialised needs and not being able to get that support. So it's just thinking going into a very different kind of challenge for us. Also, obviously, we do have a separate education part to our committee, but with education being a children's services, just what are we doing in terms of supporting those now with schools going into potential with cases? We've seen 2 schools already where whole classes are having to self-isolate, and the support there. And if we were ever in a situation where schools close again, to have those hubs ready, it's just to try and understand how are we supporting those. I think on a separate point, I would like to raise with the committee today, I think the fact that the council announced which schools had cases before schools could communicate with parents caused a lot of panic and chaos, and I personally, as a member of this committee, would have been helpful to get information. Maybe that's something we can pass on to the Director of Education as well and cover in a future meeting. But obviously that would have been in terms of informing our looked after children and their carers and the implications for them if whole classes are having to self-isolate and so on. So it's just to try and understand not just the recovery, but how are we dealing with the situation now and the day-by-day changes that we're seeing. Diolch.
Diolch, Councillor Vychan.
Thank you, Councillor Vaughan. I think it's very much the $6 million question, isn't it? I can confirm that the service has got a contingency plan that was opened yesterday, and that has a graduated response leading up to returning to the arrangements that we had back at the end of March and beginning of April. I'll meet with heads of service later today, and I trust that the scrutiny committee will understand it's a very fast-moving situation, and we will have to respond to the facts as they arrive. I think it is a feature of these situations that getting the accurate information at the right time is very important, and you're right, Councillor Vaughan, communication around that is really important. So that would involve going back to, if necessary, daily meetings. In terms of supporting families, we already have got the risk assessment, the red, amber, green case process in place. That involves making sure that we keep very closely in touch with those families who most need our services, that we're responding to new concerns, and that we prioritise our service where the needs are, and that we're in touch with that changing picture. I haven't got any information at the moment around school closures myself, and you rightly state that there'll be further information sought from the Director of Education, but I will myself work closely with the corporate arrangements for responding to any new announcements. You're right, it is a very worrying time for us as we look into what might be a longer period, and actually building resilience to prepare for challenging times might be a better description than recovery plan.
Thank you, Councillor Vaughan. Just for you to know, I did yesterday, Councillor Vaughan, request that we invite the Director of Education to this meeting in light of sort of what was going on yesterday. I mean, I was aware online and was contacted by parents about classes being sent home to self-isolate, and I hoped that the Director of Education might be able to join us on this meeting. However, Mr Hannigan explained that he didn't think it was appropriate, and because she's preparing for the meeting tomorrow, the full council urgent meeting tomorrow. So, I mean, I think that meeting is only an hour long, and it would have been good if it had come to scrutiny with less members, where we could have maybe, you know, had a bigger discussion on it. But I think you're right, and I sense there's a frustration within the committee with things are moving so fast, and it's difficult to keep up with what's going on. And then when you're only getting snippets of things as well, I understand your frustration. But there is that meeting tomorrow night, and also there won't be another scrutiny meeting now until potentially October. So I think it's about, you know, I don't know what to suggest really, because we've got the council's AGM next week, of course, then a council meeting. So I think the diary is pretty full, but I do think it's important for members to be kept up to date with information. So I agree with you. I'll move on to Councillor Edwards, please.
Thank you, Chair. It was pretty much following on from Councillor Vaughan, really. Just, you know, if the recovery plan is in place, obviously it needs to be quite flexible based on the, you know, changing climate day in, day out, you know, is constant. So yeah, you know, it was just to make sure that there was a robust recovery plan that allowed for that flexibility, really. And also, when you mentioned about the youth offending and the outreach team going out to meet with the young people in the hotspots, obviously there's been quite a lot of uneasiness amongst young people, and, you know, that need for interaction really, and to see their friends. And I'm just wondering if there's a plan to manage that effectively.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, you're right. A lot will depend now on any announcements from in the forthcoming week. But the youth engagement participation work and the youth offending service are planning, have got arrangements in place to respond to what are referred to as the hotspots, so that they can constructively engage with and distract and support those young people.
Thank you. Councillor Brenshaw, please.
Thank you. Related to that as well, and the situation we're in, I know this is not education, but it does relate to children with particular needs. Teachers who have children with particularly their own children with special needs at home that are vulnerable. Can I just raise an issue there? There's a lot of anxiety among staff in schools, but if you happen to have a child that's disabled and needs and is vulnerable, and those members of staff are still expected and would under circumstances wish to go to school, of course, but I'm not quite sure what that criteria is, and maybe this is not the place to have it answered. My main question, and it's something that we have seemed to have discussed an awful lot, is the social worker caseload. Now, at times like this, it becomes even more critical and more obvious. We don't have enough social workers, and it's a general problem, isn't it? It really is. I know Gia's raised issues about staffing and levels as well. We've got the University of South Wales. We've got an awful lot of pressure onto our existing social workers, which someone is then off with COVID, you know, and they have to self-isolate for 2 weeks. That adds additional pressure onto what already is a shortage in that particular department. So I just wondered, have we actually got a long-term strategy in terms of, you know, looking at revisiting terms and conditions, or I don't know much what we can do about incentive payments and so on. There's an underlying problem with it, but it certainly comes to light with COVID, doesn't it?
Thank you, Councillor Benshaw. I think probably your first point is probably quite difficult for Annabelle to answer, because that's probably a question for the Director of Education, isn't it? Which we could pass on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the second point about recruitment, retention, workforce in general, we are looking at an overall workforce strategy. We are contributing to some of the work by Social Care Wales. That's looking at an attraction campaign for the care workforce. And we have increased the number of staff who we support ourselves to become qualified as social work. And that's kind of growing your own method is really important. We found that those staff who we support to qualify as social workers are good investors and long stayers. But we need to do more than one thing, and the work is developing. There's a piece of work that's looking at salaries. There's a piece of work going on looking at workforce skills, training and development, because what we want to do is attract the right staff with the right values and then keep them when they're here. As much as I think it's important that we don't hide from the impact for the service, the public and staff around these issues, I think it's also important that I convey that this is a multi-layered piece of work that goes right through kind of the remit of attraction, supporting staff, rewarding them well, and investing in their further development and giving them a strong model of practice when they're here. And there are a range of pieces of work that are underway.
Thank you. Mr. Willett, please.
Diolch, Chair. Thank you very much for the discussion about the recovery plan. I just want to raise a concern here that what we've all just been through with the pandemic and with having to do so much in a virtual environment is really how many young people live their lives on a daily basis, communicating to one another through these different formats. And I think there's a temptation here for us to say that one is better than the other, as in face-to-face is better than virtual, and we may have reasons to say one or the other. And obviously there are concerns outside of that. But I think it would be important to bear in mind that as we do move forward, that the virtual opportunity is not abandoned, particularly for young people who have mobility issues, who may be stuck in homes. I know that this has been a benefit to some young people that I'm aware of and affiliated with, that having access to things virtually has been helpful to them, that they don't feel excluded. So as we do rush to get things back to normal, as we say, to not forget that there are some who have benefited greatly from being a part of these virtual youth clubs, these virtual communities, and even finding that it is easier for them to engage in conversation with people, that they're not intimidated by face-to-face interactions, but they actually have interactions in different ways. And so rather than saying, that one is preferred over the other, to bear in mind for any plans moving forward, that there are benefits to holding on to something of the virtual environment. And so that's really I picked that up as we were talking here in the discussions about really moving back to doing more face-to-face. I don't think we should now abandon what we've just been through, because I think we've learned a lot, and perhaps we've experienced some things that were painful or difficult or challenging. I know for myself, as a local youth worker, we ran youth clubs on a Friday night virtually, and it was really challenging, but I also found it very rewarding and was able to engage with the young people in ways that I wouldn't have before, because we were able to focus on one another a bit more. And so there are benefits to that as well. And I just want to make sure that we're not leaving those behind as we think about recovery. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Willett. I couldn't agree more, actually. When I refer to face-to-face work, I'm particularly thinking about family assessment and particularly younger children. In fact, some of the older young people have said to us, we like this, talking to you via Skype. And we learn quickly. And now that we're going to be adopting some of that for definite. In fact, one of the new pieces of work that will come online next year is an app that's being developed by a care experienced young person with other care experienced young people to improve our communication with 16 plus care experienced young people. So definitely what we've learned, we have gained and we must grow. Although in terms of social work family assessments, I still will maintain my own view that elements of face-to-face work are irreplaceable.
Thank you. Councillor Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. Going back to one of the concerns that was raised earlier about children. My observation this week, attending a local school with a family member, was the amount of children that was travelling to the school building itself in quite large numbers, and no social distancing involved at all, and it just frightened me. So I just wanted to mention that, to find out whether perhaps better staggered times could have some kind of impact on protecting their health and well-being.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Sorry, my screen has sort of shifted around a little bit and I can no longer see Claire. However, I do think that anything that does come up, sort of any points raised that have that education element to it, Claire, can it be noted down and given to the Director, please?
Yes,
I can see you again.
It'll be recorded and presented to the Director of Education on your
Lovely.
behalf. Thank you.
And then if the entire committee could have the response as well.
Yeah. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Jones, for raising that. Gio, I believe you wanted to come in?
Thank you, Chair. Diolch. I would have come in at the end. I just wanted to say that the questions you're asking are the right questions. And I'm in the winter of my career now, as you all know, as winter approaches. But I've never been throughout that career in a position where I was more or less confident about being clear about what was coming next. I still have hope that we won't go into another significant lockdown. And I hope that the people in our community, because it's within their gift, will prevent that from happening. Because if we all adhere to the rules that have been set, there's every chance that we won't go into another lockdown and that we'll be in a better place. What I am confident about is that you will need to work with us to help us get the planning right, to get the solutions right, as you have done throughout this. And I think we are very fortunate as officers to work in a council, I've said it a few times, which is focused on us doing the right thing rather than just focusing on money or a particular strategy or direction. You've always wanted us to try and do the right things. That becomes increasingly difficult when you're dealing in a pandemic situation, which has meant that we couldn't do the face-to-face. But what I'm also 100% certain about is that the way out of this will be in partnership So if we can work with you, work with the council, we will also need to work with our health colleagues, our education colleagues, and others on the third sector and others in our communities to find the solutions. CAMS was mentioned, but it's broader than just CAMS. It's about pre-CAMS, it's about emotional well-being, it's about mental health generally, and understanding health's input into that. It's about how our children looked after and how the health contribute to the services we're trying to provide to people in residential or even within the community. What we have is a phenomenal workforce that has shown remarkable commitment, remarkable resilience, and the ability to go that extra mile more often than I thought was possible, and yet they continue to do that. What I worry about is how long people can sustain that. And some of the solutions that Annabelle has alluded to, some of those solutions around recruitment, retention, etc., I do think, and you know I've said it before, need to be addressed on a national scale. Because when you have other very well-deserving workforces receiving additional elements, receiving praise, there's always that little sort of reference right at the end, and social care staff. Actually, you know that without those staff, we would have far more children at risk, far more children in need, and far poorer outcomes for people. The Welsh Government has changed the outcome regime of late because it's rationalised it. So it is more difficult for us to give you the level of data we had previously. But what I think you've seen is that Annabelle is telling it to you as it is, and will continue to do so. But I honestly believe that it'll only be together and with our other partners that we'll see out of this. And in those partners, I include families and young people who have also showed remarkable resilience and flexibility. But I can't remember who mentioned it earlier. Whatever we do, we're going to have to be, fleet of foot and flexible going forward, because I don't think we will be able to regimentally say, this is what we aim to do over the next 6 months. We're going to have to be very careful and be able to adapt, because this thing is evolving, and this pandemic for all of us is evolving. So I would, I suppose, put a thank you to everyone who's been involved so far, and a plea to retain that level of challenge and support that you've given us, because without that, I think there's more risk we won't get it right.
Thank you, Gio. Councillor Powell, please.
Thank you, Chair, and can I say absolutely thank you to Gio for those words. I think he's nailed quite a lot of the thoughts of us members and officers as well. And thank you, Annabelle, for your presentation at the start. I missed the first bit of it. I was distracted. We have a daughter who's not very well. Some of the things which are on the minds of quite a few of us, if not all of us as councillors, is we've been saying about the recovery plan. As you know, we had a bit of a disaster at the start of the year in February, where quite a lot of councillors had wards flooded out, etc. And we are looking forward to actually having an input into getting to a position where, if that were to happen again, we have a better system of actually dealing with it. And I understand the Welsh Assembly Government are involved now with looking at the pandemic and how we are reacting to that with regards to people in need of extra support, looked after, well, what I say, I don't know if it's looked after children, but those people in society who
I moved. It was uncomfortable.
You're calling.
Councillor Griffiths, could you unmute yourself, please? Thank you.
So what I was saying, that there are these people within society. When we had the floods, I could point to houses which have been flooded and said they need support. Pandemic, I can't point to a house and say that person in that house needs support. I could do a few in my street. I could say my next door neighbour needs some. 2 doors down, 3 doors down, the couple in there needs some. And several others in my street. But I can't point at every house in my ward that needs support. And as I understand it, and perhaps yourself, this Gio's one is Annabelle, it is very, very difficult for us as ward members to actually have this support structure there. And as I understand it now, the Welsh Assembly Government, RCT, Cwmtaf Health Board are actually getting a database together to actually be able to supply and support whenever it's required in future. And I'm just wondering, Annabelle, are we actually, as a council, engaged in that? And if not, can we be, to actually have, on an all Wales basis, a data of people who are children who are vulnerable, who require support, so that if there is an incident of the nature of, say, for argument's sake, the flooding, where it's precise, it's only in one area, that we can deal with that on a fairly quick basis. Or if it's much the same as we have this pandemic with hopefully not another second lockdown and a second wave, but at least as we're coming out as part of a recovery plan, to actually be involved in that. And I'm wondering if that is the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Powell.
Thanks, Councillor Powell. I enjoyed listening to your responses. Hope your daughter's better soon. And but really what you're describing is the environment and the circumstances in which Resilient Families Service has been established. And I think that the piece of work that you're talking about kind of communities and identifying vulnerable and those who most need service, is referring to the vulnerability profiling piece of work that's underway and that Public Health Wales are investing in as well. I haven't got more detailed information at my fingertips on that, and it is an area that Zoe Lancelot is leading on behalf of the council. So, Chair, I'd like to ask your agreement to support me in coming back with a written response from Zoe following the meeting, please.
Yes, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Thank you. Craig Jones, please, representative from the GMB.
Diolch, Cadeirydd, and thank you all. I know I haven't been here for a while, but have been busy on other matters. But I will say, just to add to what Gio has said, staff have been absolutely fantastic through this pandemic. And I'd like to thank Gio and Annabelle for the work they have done. To be fair to Annabelle, she has met with us at least 3 occasions now since she's been here, and we have regular meetings with Annabelle to cover off any problems that come off. And it seems to be, if anything has cropped up, we've been able to nip it in the bud with Annabelle's help and all the management within Children's Services. So a big thank you for that. But what I will say, just to give you a flavour of the start of the pandemic, staff had literally hours, if not a day, to vacate offices, which we thought was going to be a couple of weeks out, which turned into, as we know, 3, 4, 5 months. We weren't prepared for it. But what I have said is, issues like this with Teams and Zoom have actually brought forward that we can work remotely and everything else. We can't go back the way we were, because if we go back to the offices with the 2-meter social distances and everything else, we don't have enough offices to fit all our staff, so we have to work remotely. And I will say this as part of the trade union group on here, is that we will work closely with Annabelle and the management team so we can work forward and productive work forward on this. And as we're doing now, but there is issues there, and we have worked, and we started in January with the recruitment intention that we looked at, but unfortunately the pandemic did tend to get into the way of it. But as soon as we can get that back up and running, hopefully we can try and sort something out with this recruitment intention through partnership working. Thank you.
Thank you. Annabelle, I'm not sure if you would like to respond to any of that.
Thank you, Craig. Yes, I agree. It's really important that we continue that work together and support staff.
Thank you. Just one question for myself, please, Annabelle. In terms of our children, our children looked after, and the children who are maybe waiting to be adopted or maybe waiting to go into foster care, as we've said before, I know we've talked about a recovery plan, but I still feel as though we're kind of in the thick of things, and we just don't know what's yet to come, do we? But what do you think the delay will be and the difficulties will be in placing those children? What are you anticipating in terms of children needing foster carers, or ones who are about to move on, and our children who were going through the adoption process?
Thanks, Chair. A great question. In terms of children, we're not aware of any children waiting for foster care. But in terms of children who are subject to placement orders and have been matched to adopters, at the very outset of the pandemic, there was some concern about the impact of when the regulations were at their strictest, causing delay. Those are very young children who should not be kept waiting. I'm glad to say that we work with National Adoption Service to develop a risk assessment, and we have successfully placed children with adopters. We have also progressed some work and discharged some care orders where children have successfully returned home and risks have been reduced. The delay around exits that I'm referring to is those families where we need to do pieces of work that require perhaps sustained pieces of work in the family home in order to satisfy ourselves that risks have been reduced, in order to be able to discharge care orders, progress to a special guardianship order. And it is those pieces of work that have become protracted that we will need to make progress with. We have, I'm aware that part of the reason that staff were recognised by court was because they had carried out pieces of assessment in other ways wherever they can. But as I outlined, otherwise, when it comes to relationships, safeguarding children, there are elements of work that must be face-to-face.
Thank you very much, Annabelle. No other member has indicated they'd like to speak. Councillor Leishon, is there anything else that you'd like to say on the sort of the recovery plan of the second part of the meeting then that Annabelle has been discussing?
No, I'm quite happy that there's been so much in-depth questioning. Most areas have been covered by the committee members. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. In which case, I'll ask Paul to... Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody indicate? Oh, I thought I heard somebody. Apologies. In which case, I'll go over to Paul then, please, for the recommendations. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Members, at agenda item 2, the recommendations are to consider the verbal update from the Director of Children's Services in relation to the Council's response to COVID-19, to acknowledge the contents of the information included in this report and the latest verbal information received, and determine whether there are any areas in which members would like to receive further information. And Chair, what I've noted as a result of the debate this evening, that there are to be 2 reports coming back from Zoe's Lancelot, one in relation to the request for data raised by Mr. Willett, and the second report then in relation to the vulnerability profiling as a result of the question raised by Councillor Powell. And then there are going to be hopefully a number of reports coming back from the Director of Education based on questions that were more education sort of orientated rather than children's services from this evening. And as Claire has said, the report, this meeting is recorded. Gaynor will look at that recording and hopefully then feedback to members either directly or at the next meeting on any matters that she feels directly related to her department.
Yeah, apologies, Paul, for interrupting you. I think it's important that members get those answers as soon as possible, really, if it's okay with officers, because before that, we don't want to be waiting until the next meeting, because we're into October then. So if they could be passed on to the relevant officers.
I certainly will do that, Chair. Thank you.
Chair, could I come in there?
Of course.
I would expect some of the questions that have been asked this evening may also be clarified tomorrow within the meeting that's set tomorrow, but we will pass that on to the Director of Education, and she should come back as soon as she could.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Claire. In which case then, members, could I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendations 2.1 through to 2.3, please, with the additions that Paul mentioned. Councillor Lewis, there we go, and then Councillor Powell seconded. Thank you very much. And I just need to do the roll call, members, to make sure that you're all in agreement. Councillor Brenshaw, are you satisfied with the recommendations? Happy to support?
I'm happy to support, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Calvert, please.
Happy to support.
Thank you. Councillor Diamond. You're on mute,
Happy to support.
There we go. Thank you very much. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you. Yes, happy to support.
Lovely. Councillor Vychan.
Hapus I gefnogi.
Diolch. Councillor Griffiths? Councillor Griffiths?
To support.
There we go, thank you. Councillor Jones, please. Councillor Jones? Councillor Jones, you're on mute.
I'm still having technical issues, Chair. I do apologise.
Okay, not a problem.
You just completely went off.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry.
I'm not up to date with what's required.
Okay, can you tell me if you're happy to support the recommendations, please,
Yes.
with the additions? Thank you, Councillor Jones. Councillor Stephen Powell, please.
Yeah, happy to support.
Thank you. And Councillor Stacey.
Happy to support.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So, Paul, that's unanimous there. If that can all be taken back, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Lovely. Thank you very much. There's no urgent business to report this evening. All that's left for me to do, really, is to thank everybody. This is the last meeting prior to the AGM, so it's possible that the membership could change by the time the next meeting comes around in October. It looks as though it'll be. Can I thank officers for their attendance this evening, and to Annabelle also, and to Councillor Leishon for her attendance. Mr. Willett, we all wish you and your family a very safe journey. And thank you very much also for, you know, as I said earlier, for your contribution to the Scrutiny Committee. And with that, I will close the meeting. Thank you.